Have you told your friends that you see ghosts?
Oh, absolutely not.
Gina Rodriguez returns in Not Dead Yet.
I'm back, baby!
Who is up?
Oh, she's the obituary writer.
And Brad Garrett joins the brilliant ensemble cast.
Titan, Maverick, Titan of all Mavericks. These are all words used to describe me.
Not Dead Yet. Season premiere. Tonight, 8:30, 7:30 Central on ABC. And stream on Hulu.
Welcome to the Death Spa. That's where we're hanging out. We're going to get all swell. We're going to get our pec juices pumping. It's me, your host, Matt, joined by his ever co-host, Scott. And we're joined by a guest from last week, our bro, Kyle. Yeah. Yo, Kyle, how much can you lift, bro? How much can you lift?
Like 5 pounds on either hand, so 10 altogether.
Oh, man, that's pretty sweet. Pretty sweet. All right, well, let's talk about Death Spa. Let's try not to get killed. We got top-notch security system. Don't you worry, we're good. Scott, you picked this, and from what I've learned before we hit the record button, you're the only one who had seen this before.
Yeah,
so.
This was only watch number 2 for me. I actually don't watch this one as much as I watch Killer Workout. But
yeah, midway through this movie, I thought, ooh, we probably should have done this at Halloween because it's really based around a Halloween party for a huge chunk of it.
Barely. I forget that's I actually it didn't register as a Halloween party for me. I thought that it was just a celebration.
You thought that's just the normal clothes that people wear to the gym?
Obviously, I've never stepped foot in a gym. Have you seen me? I am like one gangly little motherfucker.
This movie, dude, there is some... I mean, this is like later on in the movie, but man, there's some homoerotic grab ass that goes on at random points of this movie.
It's not at the end, man. It is throughout.
Marvin and the main character... Just like there's a scene where they're just playing in a pool and they're just like like playing in the pool.
Tickle fight. So here's the weirdest thing about that. I actually have a note where I'm like, man, this pool scene is weird, but I really want to go swimming.
It does its job. You're a victim of advertising, even if it is Death Spa.
I can't tell you the last time that I swam in a pool. Like I swim in lakes in the ocean and stuff, but I can't remember the last time I was in the pool with the guy from Dawn of the Dead, and we're like laughing and like.
Dude, that guy's in everything.
Yeah, I checked his Wikipedia or his IMDb out because I was like,
yeah, he's horror royalty.
Yeah, he is.
All right, so tell us about Death Spa, Scott. Walk us through this thing that we witnessed, because my first note, I'll tell you, just says her dancing doesn't match up with this theme song.
Yeah. So first of all, this has an alternate title called Witch Bitch.
Which is a great title.
Death Spa. It's the same. Yeah. This is the Killer Workout versus Aerobicide discussion.
I know, but isn't it so funny that they're both like very parallel in their presentation?
Wait, correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't you watch this movie because you thought Killer Workout was Death Spa? Because they sprayed... Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I'm piecing this together now. If you go through the archives, in one of his What Did We Watch This Week's, there's a storyline that you can build.
About this. Yeah, and it's funny because I'm sure that I'm going to quote some of the same shit today because there's a line at the very end. I'll get to it. Don't worry, I have it written down in big, bold letters so that I don't forget. But I definitely quoted this movie, the penultimate line of this film, last time we talked about it, so we can just expand upon that. But yes, the alternate title of this film is Witch Bitch. The alternate title of Killer Workout was Aerobicide. Personally, I think Aerobicide is a better name than
great name.
They also had an entire song called Aerobicide in Killer Workout. So confusing that they would have the alternate title be the real title when the alternate title is the one that has a song. With this one, at the very beginning, I just want to point out the fact that it's called Star Body Health Spa, and then lightning hits, and you get Death Spa. So that it makes sense in the concept of this film that they went with Death Spa instead of Witch Bitch, because Witch Bitch is a terrible name for a movie.
Yeah.
Terrible name.
So here's the thing that I have with there's a handful of notes where I'm comparing Killer Workout to this movie because like you kind of have to in a weird way.
Oh yeah.
So Killer Workout. So this is my conclusion before we jump in. I really like this movie. I think Killer Workout's the better movie because it's way more absurd. But I wish that Killer Workout was as brutal as this movie is. Like if Killer Workout had the practical effects that Death Spa has going for it, it would be a flawless movie. But I also
It would be a flawless movie.
But
Easy, Tiger.
Killer Workout
Easy,
has
Tiger.
like pointless fight scenes.
Oh, dude. Well, that leads to my next thing. Death Spa also has better soundtrack, I think. The opening song, is garbage. Dude, the song that creepy like choreographed workout sequence happens to is fucking incredible.
That was a hot track for sure.
Yeah, I'm not saying the music in this film isn't good, but I mean, you got that song in Killer Workout. First of all, you have 9 dance sequences in Killer Workout, and it's gratuitous, like women's butts like clenching. It's so gratuitous that you feel uncomfortable watching it. Even though no one's watching you watch it, you're like, fuck, this is so uncomfortable. I want to remind you of the line in Killer Workout when she goes, I've got the apple red and juicy, something like hot and sweet.
Yeah.
This movie has no poetry like that.
I disagree. There's the greatest burn that has ever been said in film. I'm Beta, you're VHS.
Oh my God, I have that written down too. Also, this movie was made and released in 1989. There's no way in hell that Beta and VHS were still like an argument. Basically, he was saying like, you're way too good for me and I'm a piece of shit that no one wants.
So this is my last note before we dive into the actual walking through the plot line. But as much as I can compare this movie to Killer Workout, there's something about this movie that just makes me think of Toxic Avenger like repeatedly. And I think it's because the actual gym feels like every time that they're inside of it, you should be hearing that song. It's like, gotta listen to your body talk.
Yeah.
They need to be smoking cigarettes while they lift weights.
There's enough movies from the 80s that have health clubs or spas, as they have called them throughout their fucking gym. Anyway, there are enough 80s movies and at least early 90s movies that make me realize that maybe these places were real. Like this isn't just Hollywood folklore. These places existed. I thought like
gyms, yes, they're still around. I've been to
I'm talking health clubs with pink lights and like women just like always doing the 80s version of Zumba. Like
it's called jazzercise.
Thank you. I'm dating myself here. However,
I just realized I forgot to read something on my What Did I Watch this week on last week's episode. I'm going to read both of them on this week because they tie in beautifully with Death Spa. Sorry to cut you off, but that's a don't hit the skip ahead button just yet, guys.
But I was like, I couldn't believe that these places existed. Anyway, it just we need to know how this all somehow matches what you watched, because holy shit.
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you that these things were a thing because cocaine. That's all you need to know.
See, I didn't realize it was so simple.
It's honestly, if you have any question about the 80s, that's the answer.
Cocaine. You're right.
I actually. One of my first notes is, I wrote down, the real question is whether this is a gym or an art installation.
Yeah, this place is out of control.
It might be both at the same time. And then we have this crazy blonde doing interpretive dance. Because it sure as hell isn't real jazzercise or like anything. She's just kind of convulsing to her own. She's dancing to the beat of a different drummer, guys. But I know it's not as good as last week. We're not getting boobies in the first 2 minutes, but the 5-minute mark is when we get our boobies in this movie. Mm-hmm. And then she gets like sprayed with chlorine water or something.
Well, I believe she was gassed in the shower, in which I was like, oh no, am I watching Hard Rock Zombies?
But here's the thing: is that the witch bitch who is, we'll just fast forward just a second here. It's the owner's dead wife, Catherine, and she is haunting his gym because she's a jealous lover, and doesn't want him to be with anybody. But so this woman, I can't remember her name, but she's like his girlfriend. She, like, nothing says time to flick your bean like laying down in the shower after some interpretive dance. Like she's going for it.
Oh yeah. Like no regards for anything that could potentially be around here. She would have done it if she was in an open public area. Like that's how like into it she is.
Yeah, I don't know what she was listening to. I think that she might have been drunk because, she gets that it's like a Perrier bottle that she's drinking water out of, which makes no sense. Like, didn't they have water bottles in 1989? She's got like this glass bottle she's drinking out. I'm like, are you drinking champagne? Is that why you go into the sauna or I guess it's a weird shower room?
It's still like a sort of a steam room, but not a sauna at the same time. It's very odd.
Yeah, but then she gets like burnt, and I guess the main guy, whatever his name is, I don't think I even wrote it down.
I wish I could help you with names, man. I couldn't remember a goddamn thing.
No, it's okay. It doesn't even matter. A quick story time about the music in this and why Matt loves it. It sounds just like this Philly band that he showed me called Rump Posse. The first time that he and I actually ever hung out was a couple years ago for an anime con that he got us hooked up for in Philly. So I come up the night before the con and he's like, dude, you got to listen to this band. And it's like these guys from the MySpace era or something like that, that did this music. Like that sounds like 80s rock and roll instrumental dance music. It's so great and so weird, and it's very hard to find.
What was the name again? Rump what?
Rump Posse. If I remember to, I'll play just a little taste of it underneath this while we're talking about it. They're actually from Florida.
I mean, that's a great name. Great name.
And they dressed in all 80s like workout clothes and stuff on stage. They cover Mike Tyson's Punch Out. It's like they're big.
But that's like the least interesting thing about that band. And I'm not. That's showing how interesting that band is, because like they have songs like all their songs are
working out.
About working out or having sex.
One Last Thrust was their love song.
Yeah.
One Last Thrust.
Dude, it is.
There's a track. If I'm gonna put any track under this, I'll probably put this one on. So if you're listening, you might hear it faintly in the distance, listeners. It's a song called A Song to Work Out To, and it's
always like, we're in shape.
It's just like just a bass line like dum 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 as a guy's just going like, now stretch it out.
It's crazy. But so I'm watching the guy drive around in this next scene after the girl gets chlorine gassed, and I'm like, this sounds just like Rump Posse. I want to work out now. And we see the cop come in. The cop's like the white fat dude and the darker haired lady with the she's got like dreads or something like that. They come in, and the fat dude cop is doing the time honored tradition of cops chewing gum like really annoyingly.
Oh,
and
super
then
annoying.
He asks the guy who runs the gym, so why did this woman get hurt in your gym last night? Like, does your wife know about this? And he's like, my wife's dead.
Well, and that's when they go into what is apparently a science lab, but it's where their security system is.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So the whole point of this spa is that this gym is all digital. It's run off of a giant computer in this main room that David, the twin brother of Catherine, the dead witch bitch, who was married to the guy who runs the spa, is like the computer programmer. And it's
a real Ghost in the Machine type situation.
Oh, come on. That's a low-hanging fruit. But you know how you were saying that this movie is very homoerotic? It gets hard and fast, pun intended, right here when Ted, the brother, is like, assaulting women isn't my style. Because about a minute or two right before that, he's watching dudes work out, and he's like, he sees the blonde bodybuilder, he's like, nothing I could do to make that better, or something because he's like he's making people work harder with the machine, but on their machines. But he's like, no way I can make him work harder. And I'm like, geez, dude. So it kind of sets up for the fact that he's being possessed, but it doesn't matter. He talks about how he was not at the spa the night before because he was home like hacking. And I'm like, oh wow, 1999, good job. But the
Great hobby.
yeah. Then another woman gets injured because she's jumping like an idiot 5-year-old on the high diving board, and then it like falls off. She's like, I could have been killed. And then
yeah, man, don't do that.
Yeah, like she's not. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Yeah, I don't know enough about high dives, but I'm pretty sure you don't just like jump on it like a trampoline. So then somebody says this line about how the owner's wife was burned to unrecognizable ashes, as compared to recognizable ashes.
You're like, oh yeah, no, I see her tattoo in those ashes. Yeah, no, that's her.
Yeah, like I get what they're saying is that she was burnt beyond recognition, and they had to like get her dental records or something. But it's just that line comes up more than once, like unrecognizable ashes.
Yeah, somebody didn't go through another pass of the script. Holy shit.
Yeah, this script is real fast and loose. But there's a dance scene at 20 minutes, which is not nearly as good as the Killer Workouts dance scenes, but it's serviceable and ridiculous. But then we get this foreshadowing scene with the blender. You know, and the girl's like, I'm gonna make you a smoothie, and then she was like, and then she's like, oh, it's tomato juice, and she's like, I lost my appetite. And the girl who just did the stupid fake out starts like sucking her hands clean of the tomato juice. That has to be against health code, right?
Oh, for sure. You can't just be doing that like at a health club spa of all places. Like, come on. Yeah,
like what? The city's gonna come in and be like, hey, you can't lick your fingers like that. Nobody's got like any sense of
nobody knows what the hell
responsibility here.
Which it also like it's so interesting watching this now, where I feel there is like another like gym craze. Like I mean I know since this like working out and fitness has been popular, but not in the same way that it was popular in the 80s. So like there's still like this craze of fitness, and I can only imagine the gross, nasty shit that gets by. Like it's not being dumb with a blender and making a protein shake. But there's still like there's still nasty, some sort of stupid, nasty shit that like looking back 10 years from now will be like, oh, they fucking did that in that gyms? Like they fucking. I wish I had a better example, but I know
Instagram. It's just anything on Instagram.
Yeah, I mean, you could like any sort of weird, dumbass like. I don't know. I hate that culture so much, and I can't.
Yeah, like, skinny guys unite.
Yeah, right. God bless. Right. God save us. Whatever.
You know what, Kyle? We're gonna hang out. We're gonna arm wrestle. I want to see who's the stronger skinny man,
or who wants to see which arm breaks first. Just out of sheer like malnutrition, and not out of strength, out of malnutrition, and I don't know.
I'm nutriented, man.
All right. So I lose.
Yeah. But then we get, after that, the tomato fingers, we get the gratuitous shower scene, which is so gratuitous. Like, there are 6 women, full frontal, butt shots, and then they get, like, shoved out of the shower by all these, like, tiles flying off. It's actually a pretty fun scene, but it is pretty gratuitous and unnecessary with how much, like, it's, like, kind of just... The camera stays on the boobs for too long, and you kind of feel gross. It's not porn, just like it's supposed to be a movie. Come on now. So then after that, they have to talk to the police again. And then these girls are like trying to set up a threesome after jazz class with the owner, and he doesn't rebuff them. He's got like a girlfriend.
What a time to be alive.
Yeah, like he's got a girlfriend who's always at the club working out. She would find out if he was going to bang 2 other regulars. Also, it's very against the ethics of having like a gym, isn't it? I don't know, but...
Yeah, well, not in the 80s. Again, I'm going to quote you and say that the answer is cocaine.
Yeah.
And that's why any of this happens.
Yeah, but we get to the most mediocre death of this movie where the guy gets his ribs pulled out by the pectoral machine.
Yeah, there felt like that's a great setup. Like there's so much more that could happen.
And it's on the
I was
cover.
gonna say, here's the thing about this movie that I think is kind of cool, is like the movie has a really cool cover, right? But like 99% of the time, those cool covers don't deliver. But like everything that's on that cover straight up delivers in this movie, which is so rare that like even though it's a little disappointing, I like award it points that it actually worked in what was happening in the cover because. Need I remind you?
At least it happened,
Ghoulies didn't come out of no toilet in Ghoulies 1. That only happened in Ghoulies 2.
That's true.
And 3.
I'm looking at the cover of Witch Bitch just to get an idea of what they did
I want to
for
see
Witch
if Witch
Bitch.
Bitch has a different cover.
It does. It's great.
It's
But,
all
like,
right.
It makes sense. Well, if that it makes sense for the movie called Witch Bitch. Like it doesn't make sense. If it had Death Spot on there, I wouldn't dig it, but it makes sense for what Witch Bitch is.
It's funny though because there's one cover that is like a like an airbrush painting that is kind of meh. And then there's another one with a much better cover where it has Catherine Ghost with like electricity coming out of her fingertips. And then it shows Starbody Health Spa right below Witch
Bitch, right?
The title.
Yeah.
Which is actually a pretty, actually of all three of the covers, I think that might be my favorite.
Yeah.
Although I do really love the "You'll sweat blood" tagline on Death Spa. But for the Death Spa back cover, it's very funny because the only death or the only kill that they're showing in it is that I think his name's Joey. He's kind of like the weirdo that helps Ted out in the control
the backups.
room.
Yeah, the backup security like control room guy.
Yeah. Like, so Catherine, you find out she's possessing Ted's body in some way, and they're doing this weird transformation where whenever she's in control of his body, she looks like herself, but she's making him like cross-dress so that she can kill people and shit. It's very odd. And it's cool. I think it's a fun concept, but again, cocaine. But she just grabs Joey's face, and he's like, ah! And then you see that that's what she did to him was like somehow kind of scrunch his face like it's made out of clay.
Yeah, I was gonna say like potato. Yeah.
Can I point out something? Because I'm looking at the back of this VHS box online as well, and there's something that's jumping out at me, and it just feels weird. So it has a description of the movie, and then it says, "Check this one out. It's from the people who brought you Faces of Death." Like, I don't know if this is the movie that you want to be like pitching with Faces of Death. They're very different movies.
That's bizarre.
Yeah, that's really.
Why would that be the promotion?
Because remember, well, Kyle, for listeners that
Teach me.
don't know Kyle, yeah,
Teach
for
me,
listeners
Uncle.
that don't know Kyle too well yet, he told us one or two times ago that he was born in like 91, so he's a youngin'. He did not really get to grow up like Matt and I did with going to like the drugstore or the grocery store and looking at all of the horror movie VHS box art. So Faces of Death was like not necessarily something that you as a younger horror fan would watch or be allowed to watch.
Yeah, I had no idea it existed until I was a horror fan, like online.
I knew about it before I was a horror fan because my aunts and uncles would talk about how horrific it was. And then I finally saw it because I was curious, and it was on the Entertainment Weekly, like 50 greatest cult films.
Yeah.
And it is strictly okay. I bet that stuff seemed super real in like 1978, but most of it, like, the seams show pretty hard now.
Yeah.
Anyway, we are like way off topic and
Yeah,
25 minutes into this.
I know exactly where I'm at though. We're at the romantic dinner with the temporarily blinded girlfriend.
Oh,
Okay.
Where he like he feeds her limp asparagus. He's like, put it on your tongue. Pretend it's my limp dick. It's such a weird scene. But then there's a girl who goes into the locker room while they're having their sexy dinner. And I'm like, is she gonna get? Because I couldn't remember how she gets killed. And I'm like, is she gonna get squeezed in the lockers, a la Prom Night 2? But no, she gets poked in the back of the head by some sort of weird needle, and kind of never shows up again. Like, people don't find that body, if I remember correctly. It's just gone. but then somehow, I guess that they were having their sexy dinner at the spa because the blinded girlfriend is just like kind of pawing her way around in the dark, and then Darla walks around in a costume, and you think, oh my God, that's Catherine, the dead wife. No, it's just Darla for a stupid jump scare. But then after that, like the owner guy is like, I feel haunted by my dead wife. Let me go see some psychometry doctor. Is like what he calls it, psychometry.
Psychometry.
So, I don't think that's a real thing.
Not a real
thing. For
thing.
this movie's purposes, he's like some weird hack that he's like, and what a beautiful marriage it was too. And then he says the unrecognizable ashes line a second time. But then I'm kind of wondering, at the end of that scene, you see all off screen, Ted is like, no. And then you hear Catherine's voice, and it sounds like ghost incest sex.
Yeah. Whoa.
It's a very weird. Yeah, super specific.
But also, I get it.
It makes this movie kind of makes me more uncomfortable than Killer Workout does in very different ways. But immediately after that, we get another dance scene, so it's like, okay, you're cool, you get to relax. And then we have this girl follow this really shoddily drawn map to the basement to meet the owner, and then she gets like liquefied by acid or chlorine gas or something. All the plot lines just start flying real hard and fast now. So we got this parapsychologist walking around.
The cocaine hit.
Where he's walking around with his little fucking ghost metal detector or whatever that shit is.
And a gun. Like, if he believes in ghosts, why does he have a revolver?
Guys,
but then,
this is that dude's big break. Like, this is his fucking big chance to prove everybody that he knows what
he's
doing.
basically Venkman. He's like, I'm going to show the world that ghosts are real. But then he's like, he tries to shoot a ghost with his gun, and I laughed so hard when it blows up in his hand. And he's like, and like there's just this ketchup like spraying out of
his hand goes out of the hand explodes. It goes out of camera shot. Then there's just an empty camera shot for a couple seconds, and then
honestly, if it held for like 10, 15, 20, 30 more seconds, it would have been a scene from Tokyo Gore Police. Like, that's how the spray sort of worked.
God, I wish that would have happened.
Now, is this the part where Catherine shows up again in Michael's dreams and she says, Michael, you might as well jump. Go ahead and jump.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because later on, I'm pretty sure she tells Michael that he needs to be hot for teacher. That joke sucked. I'm sorry. We find out that Catherine is possessing her twin brother and making him cross-dress.
Oh, yeah. This movie has everything.
This movie, like I said, the plot lines are just coming at you real hard and fast. So then it's time for the party that Michael has. I'm glad that we finally remembered his name, but like the owner is Michael. So Michael is like telling the cops, just like, let me have this Halloween party at this place, and then I'll shut the place down, and we'll figure out why these people are getting hurt at my gym. And so
never a good idea.
Seems counterintuitive to have a rager at your gym where people are getting drunk. Like, that's the place where people are supposed to get healthy.
You put this dorky ass pirate as the person in charge of all of security.
Yeah. Well, Ted's kind of like MIA, possibly attacking people at the gym, and therefore, got to have somebody, and the only other person that knows how to do anything in the control room is Joey, I guess. Then you find out that there's or the implication that there will be a tanning bed death, like there is, or I guess there's not a death in Killer Workout, but it is a method of injury in both films, which is funny. And then Michael and Catherine face off in the control room, and she goes, "Don't give me ultimatums." I'm like, you're a ghost. Why are you upset? Like, just kill people.
There's a scene shortly after this. I don't remember where it falls, but I want to get this note in because all I wrote down was, holy shit, that chick exploded.
Oh, yeah. That's I have that too. It's when it's death by mirror, and she just gets obliterated. She gets minced.
Like, it's
great.
insane.
But you're missing-
It's so like I didn't expect it, because I'm like, all right. Like, I checked the time. I'm like, oh, there's only 4 minutes left. This is probably wrapping up. And then it's like one of those scenes, like a Monty Python skit, where like everything's fine for a split second, and then someone just explodes.
Yeah, no, actually, that scene is for anybody that's listening who hasn't already watched this film. You know the head explosion in Shopping Mall? It's like that, but in an entire body.
Yeah,
it's really great.
It's great.
But we're missing the absolute best line of the movie, which is the line that I have been leading up to this whole like half an hour we've been talking about this film, because I mentioned it when I talked about this movie like a year or 2 years, whatever it's been ago since I last brought it up. Catherine is like screaming about how she wants Michael to be with her in the afterlife, and she goes, "You just have to kill yourself. Let's die together and live forever in hell."
Yes.
That doesn't sound like a really good time, Catherine. I don't know.
No,
I think I'll stick
you're not
with
selling this.
Yeah, no, not at all. But she's like it's funny that she dresses up as a pirate, takes Michael's girlfriend, ties her to the tanning bed like a pirate tying a hostage to like a pole or something like that. And then she's like, "Yar," she's like, "You gotta come stay with me or else she dies." But then more people get killed, and you get arguably two of the most famous deaths in this movie. Like, it's not the best one because obviously Death by Mirror is the best kill in this, but we get Blender Girl and Sushi Guy, which are back to back. Like Sushi Cop, he gets killed by,
which is my next movie, by the way. Just keep an eye out for it.
He gets like his throat eaten by a dead mackerel.
I might be paraphrasing here, but I think right before that mackerel comes alive and kills and eats his throat, he says something like, "What the fuck is going on here?" And all I could do, I don't talk to movies a lot, but all I could do is be like, "Oh, same." Like, yeah, man, I see that fish moving. What the fuck is going on here?
Yeah. But so I think that we're about at the end of what we need to talk about here, except for what I think they thought would be a real zinger, but it just falls flat. When Michael grabs the power and his shoe and goes, "All right, bitch, I'll show you fried chicken."
Yes.
And then his electrocution face is haunting me because I'm assuming that's what his vinegar strokes look like.
So here's my final thoughts, because I feel like I summed it beautifully in this one little note. It says, this movie has it all: crazy deaths, drag queens, nudity. It's like an early John Waters movie. But yeah, I support Death Spa. I am a fan of this.
Death Spa is
it's a
fun.
great flick.
It actually, I think it bodes well for like an HD transfer, like some.
Yeah, the Blu-ray came out great. The Blu-ray was fucking awesome.
Yeah, I thought it looked really good. Because some of those movies don't fucking hold up with a new transfer. Like, sometimes it's better to watch them like grainy and shitty and dark. But this one actually benefits from having an HD transfer. I think all the effects were like, I think the editing of it was really good. Like, there was like, not even just the effects editing, but the editing when we're going back and forth between the brother and sister cross-dressing spiritual, like supernatural, like transformation. Like, even though it's simple kind of tasks and simple movements, the editing of it made it actually work. I didn't think I was just like, oh, I'm just seeing fucking two people rolling around on the ground, even though that's what that was. It worked. It worked out really well. So I thought. I mean, the movie, it kind of holds up in a campy 80s way.
No, I'll definitely rewatch this.
It doesn't take itself very seriously.
This is definitely like a strong rewatch one day.
I need to figure out somebody to be Ken Forhee's character with that like crazy blue, yellow, and orange like jacket that he wears.
Dude, that
around.
Shit's fantastic.
Like, it's not a robe, but it's not a jacket because I don't know what the fuck it is, but it is wonderful.
The smell of the video store. I love this place.
You could look at the walls of VHS covers.
We had to choose just by looking at the cover and reading the crappy synopsis.
You were leaving with one.
And the only way to know what new movies were coming out is you actually had to watch the trailers instead of skipping them.
Right, we didn't have the internet to look it up. We had one guy named Todd behind the counter that would tell us what was good or not.
And Todd strangely liked way too many romantic comedies.
Yes, but you always knew when the boobies were coming because Todd made sure.
Oh, and remember all the awful CG we had to put up with in the mid-90s?
We talk about that a lot, don't we?
Join us on Analog Jones and the Tempo Film, where we talk about VHS tapes.
And we wax nostalgia like none other.
Available on iTunes.
And Podbean.
All right, well, what did you guys watch this week?
I'll start. So, on a completely different note, now for something completely different. Megan and I rewatched a great film starring Alan Arkin, Emily Blunt, and Amy Adams called Sunshine Cleaning.
Oh, I
think
love
it's
that
from
movie.
2008.
That movie's
Yeah,
awesome.
I love it too, and I always forget about watching it. You know, like this is only the second time we watched it, but Megan's like, "Oh, I don't know what I was doing," and I came to sit down, and I was like, "Oh, what are you watching?" She was like, "Oh, I'm rewatching Sunshine Cleaning." I'm like, "What? What movie is that?" And she's like, "Oh, you know, Amy Adams, they clean up crime scenes." Oh yeah, I love that movie, and sat down and rewatched it, and it's just great. Like it's so funny to see Emily Blunt as kind of a trailer trash American girl in this movie, because whenever I think of Emily Blunt, I think of her as like Queen Victoria or whatever it is from that, or not Victoria, but she was a queen in another movie. Like she's British, and you know, like she does like trashy white girl real well. It's very impressive. So great flick. If you've never seen it, the whole point is that Amy Adams is and her sister Emily Blunt are like, they start a crime scene cleaning business, and it's just kind of like a lighthearted drama. It's not like super heavy duty. You know, it doesn't drain you. Like I don't like dramas usually because they make me feel like emotionally drained, and I don't like that. But it's just a kind of a feel good drama. It's not really a comedy, but it has funny moments. It's got Steve Zahn in it as well, and
he fucking
the
rules.
guy that played here's a deep cut. You know, in Rules of Attraction, the guy that's like, I need you like I need an asshole in my forehead. Yeah. He's in that too, and he has one arm.
All right, Kyle.
I watched the pardon my pronunciation, the Manitou or the Manitou.
Oh God, that movie's garbage.
Yeah, really. It is. It's slow. It's really slow, but I dug it a lot. I liked a lot. I mean, the effects. It's from what, 77.
Sounds about right.
So yeah, 77, 78. And you can tell its age, obviously. But I think that there's like, once we get, okay, I'm not even going to explain the plot. Once we get past the point where a Native American medicine man emerges from the back of a middle-aged white woman, we really get things going. It's an interesting movie. It's based on a Graham Masterton movie. And I was just doing a little bit of research after I watched it, because I was like, this is a strange movie to exist ever. This dude who directed it, this was his last movie. He died in a helicopter accident in 78. But before the Manitou, he directed Day of the Animals, Grizzly, Abby, which is the Black Exorcist, and one of his first movies was not his first one. His first one was Asylum of Satan. His second movie was 3 on a Meat Hook. So this dude has this strange like list of 70s cult movies, and then he died tragically in a freaking helicopter accident while he was looking for locations for his last film, or for his 10th 11th film or whatever. But Manitou's not great. There's some fun moments. It's a weird, like, I mean, if you want to see a little person Native American emerge from a woman and as if he's a fetus and wreak havoc on a hospital, the last half hour of the movie's great. If you don't want to see that, don't watch it. But it's I had a good time with it. It's not available on DVD, but our friends over at VHS PS do have it, and their transfer of it's pretty
Nice.
Yeah.
All right, so real quickly, I want to just mention this one because Kyle's on the show, and I can only ever talk about things that I watched that involve wrestling in any way, shape, or form. If there's a fellow wrestling fan on, so I finally saw Wrestling with Shadows, which I've heard is like one of the greatest wrestling documentaries of all time, and it's pretty good. I was very impressed by it. I can see why it gets as much praise as it does. Scott, to quickly summarize what it is in a way that you would understand why it's a decent drama, it's the story of Bret the Hitman Hart and his rise in the WWE, but they were basically just hired to do like a TV documentary about like, hey, for Canada, like, hey, look at how great this guy is, like he's like a great representation of Canada. And while they were making the documentary, a thing called the Montreal Screwjob happened, which is when he was promised that they wouldn't take the belt off of him until the next day because he was leaving for another company, and then at the last second just decided fuck that guy and made him lose in like a really shisty way, and it like emotionally broke him as a person. And they got all of it on film and got like the backstage stuff of him like beating the shit out of Vince McMahon and spitting on him, and like it really just shows like a dude who gets to his breaking point with dealing with shit. But it also has a lot of interesting interviews on like what drives a person to be a wrestler. But the thing that I wanted to talk about bigger, I was supposed to talk about this at the end of last week's episode, and I forgot to, so I'm going to be talking about 2 episodes. But about a few months ago, I made a statement on an episode with Scott and I about how I really want to rewatch the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers show and see if it holds up. So I bought the first season of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, and I've been watching them episode by episode.
Oh, you poor soul.
So I'm just gonna run through my notes, and if I feel like they need to be explained, then I'll explain them. But I watched episode 1, The Day of the Dumpster. My notes include the following: theme song still rules. Alpha recruits some teenagers with attitude. That is the most super TV executive bullshit I've ever heard. Then literally they re-show, like it says Jesus. They just showed me all this in the intro because it's the first episode, and like the first minute of the intro for the first episode, and then like they play the first episode, it's the exact same shit. I remember 3 of these 5 villains. Jesus Christ, that reminds me of the Guyver. Holy shit, the Bulk and Skull music is hilarious because like they come out, it's just like ba-doop, ba-doop, like Bulk looks like a slightly fatter Jack Black. Wait, I don't understand. Jason runs a karate class. Is this like an all-purpose mall inside of a gym? Which is why I connect it with Despot, because it is very confusing wherever the fuck they hang out in every episode. Bulk and Skull are definitely making this worth my time, even though they're just an 80s bully version of Abbott and Costello. There's a line of dialogue, who ordered the spinach juice? I can't help but notice Zordon's mouth does not move. There's literally no reason why these 5 were picked at all. I forgot about the origins of putties. Jesus, this thing is stupid. The Black Ranger breakdances when he fights, and every time he's on screen, there's turntable scratches inserted into the music. This makes me miss the Super Nintendo game. Wow, the film quality stock shift is pretty fucking noticeable. So, like, when you're watching this, as you know, like the story of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers is that it was like a show in Japan, and they took a bunch of the stock footage, and like, man, when they turn into the Power Rangers, the quality of that footage just drops real quick. Half of these costumes are really great, and the other ones are barely mobile. This is like an adrenaline overload. It's like drinking 3 monsters and then chasing it with a 5-hour energy while watching the Crank movies and fast forward. There's a line of dialogue. Driving, this is like second nature. Kaiju fighting is the highlight by a long shot. Wait, where did he get this power sword? Jesus Christ, Rita's voice is super grating. The pink Power Ranger is still cute. I do not regret my 2nd grade crush. Then I also watched... I watched the second episode, High Five, in which the Yellow Ranger, Trini, has to get over her fear of heights. The gang cheers on Jason for his awesome rope climbing skills. I expect there to be a rope monster in this episode. Jason slips on Billy's head, which leads to this absurd sequence in which they both keep swinging around a room. Skull's laugh is top notch because he just kind of has like the laugh. Bulk's attempt to climb the rope because he's fat and tears the ceiling down is offensive and hilarious simultaneously. Billy creates communication and transport watches like a normal 12-year-old kid. Alpha says, and I quote, "Hello, homeboys and homegirls, welcome to our hood," for no real reason. Additionally, he starts to bounce around the room for no reason. These side villains are starting to come back to me, but yo, the main monster Bones in this episode is pretty legit. Man, there's a lot of Asians that live in Angel Grove, California. This movie has the comedic timing of a PG trauma film. There's a scene where they're standing behind a rock in an open field, and the character says, "How can they see us? We have perfect camouflage." Which has to be intentional, right? Like that can't be real. There needs to be more of the Bones character. I'm over the putties, although their mumbling is charming because whenever they're fighting, they're just like like the whole time. Trini overcomes her fear of heights to help Billy. Direct line of dialogue stressing the conflict. "I can't do it, but I have to do it." Trini is pretty and it's a genuine shame that she died so young. Finally, fucking Bones shows up. Jesus, Angel Grove has everything. A gym, mall, an amusement park, rocks to hide behind. Bones' sidekick is far less cool. They just look like 12-year-olds in black leotards with paper skeleton bones on it. This fight is very short-lived. More bones, I demand it. Now there's a giant knight suddenly. The name of this episode is High Five, and it makes no sense to why it's called that. But yo, I just watched a Robo T-Rex fight a giant knight, so this is the best medieval times experience ever. It's only the second episode, and there's no Megazoid already? That's weird. And then there's a direct quote from the Pink Ranger. She says, "This is so 80s," and I agree. So that's the first 2 episodes of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Tune in next week for episode 3. And I'm just going to keep on powering through this.
Oh, God.
But that was Death Spa from 1989 as picked by Scott. Scott, thank you so much for this pick. We will be back next week with something. Oh, okay. We're going to be back with something really good next week. I picked it, and I'm pretty stoked for it because I haven't seen it in a while, but it's good. You can contact us at hmnpodcast@gmail.com. We're very quickly approaching our listener submit it month, so make sure that you get that stuff to us ASAP so we can make sure that we entertain all of y'all. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back next week. Peace!
You're listening to the Geekscape Network.